Hello and welcome. I'm Nadira Tudor and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Al Arabiya headquarters. These are our top stories. Trump names vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as his pick for health secretary. Russia targets the city of Odessa, killing one, injuring others and leaving thousands without heating after missiles hit pipelines. And the slap shown around the world. Iron Mike Tyson prepares for battle against Jake Paul in one of the most anticipated fights in boxing history. US President-elect Donald Trump's nominations for top government jobs are continuing to raise eyebrows in political and expert circles. There's been a flurry of announcements in recent days, but some of the people picked seem incongruous with the job they'll be doing once Trump returns to the White House. Nick Harper has more from Washington.
A pro-oil and gas guy to protect America's wildlife, a vaccine skeptic to head up America's health agency, and someone under investigation to lead the Justice Department. They're the latest on the roster to fill up Donald Trump's cabinet. The president-elect held a gala at his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida on Thursday night, where he praised his picks and championed their abilities.
He's going to head the Department of Interior, and he's going to be fantastic. Good, Doug.
North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum has been nominated for Interior Secretary.
To unlock the best of America, we need a leader who's clearly focused on three things: economy, energy, and national security.
He'll be tasked with Trump's plan to increase domestic oil and gas production on federal lands, likely helped by his long-standing ties to fossil fuel companies. Former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been chosen to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. He's previously pushed health-related conspiracy theories online and amplified debunked claims that vaccines cause autism.
And he's going to help make America healthy again.
He lied to investigators.
And there's continued consternation, even from within Trump's own party, about his pick for Attorney General, Matt Gaetz. The Florida congressman is facing a probe into alleged sexual misconduct and illicit drug use.
What we've seen with Trump's picks this time around is a really consistent pattern, and that's been he's going with people that he knows well. What Trump is trying to do here basically is build a circle of trust where he can count on his people in these various roles across the administration to execute his policies the way that he wants it done.
Despite the skepticism, these nominees could be fast-tracked into position. Trump is pushing to shortcut the process by using so-called recess appointments. That would allow him to rubber stamp his own choices and avoid the potentially timely confirmation process and the possible rejection of his nominations. Nick Harper, Al Arabiya News, Washington.
For more on this, I'm joined from Washington by our chief correspondent, Simon Mark. Simon, each day is another day for a Trump revelation, and today is no exception. Can RFK Jr. help make America healthy again?
Well, Donald Trump is certainly banking on that. RFK Jr. is securing his reward for having assisted Donald Trump in his election victory. Remember that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. started out running as a presidential candidate for the Democrats. He got nowhere there because, of course, there was no real opportunity for him in the primary campaign against President Joe Biden to notch up any wins. He went on to become an independent, a sort of a third party candidate for the presidency. That wasn't going anywhere, so he threw his towel in and instead threw his hat into Donald Trump's ring and eventually endorsed Donald Trump, campaigning with him in the final weeks of the campaign. And he's clearly got Donald Trump's ear because the president-elect says that his goal is to make America healthy again. But this appointment has sent shivers through the corridors of America's public health agencies, including the National Institutes of Health, the Centers for Disease Control, and all of the others, because RFK Jr. has views that are absolutely toxic as far as America's public health orthodoxy is concerned. He's a vaccine skeptic. He doesn't believe that fluoride should remain in the public water systems. He claimed that COVID-19 was specifically engineered so that it would not be so that neither Chinese nationals nor Jewish people would fall victim to the pandemic. And he's also got plans for regulations within the pharmaceutical industry and even within the nutrition industry that fly in the face of Donald Trump's insistence that he also wants simultaneously to bring about less government in the lives of people, a smaller government, a government that will save $2 trillion by cutting regulations. So in that regard, they may be on a bit of a collision course. But the biggest challenge they've got right now is to get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and some of these other appointees confirmed by the Senate, although certainly Republicans in the Senate last night were all indicating that they'll give him a look.
Simon, it is a bit baffling, isn't it? He's certainly gone around the houses. You mentioned Democrat, Independent, and now Donald Trump's suggestion here. And it is a bit of a baffling thing to think that he will get through the Senate and get through. So why on earth would Trump choose him?
Because this is all about Donald Trump doing exactly what he pledged to do on the campaign trail. Everything that we've witnessed here over the last week is Donald Trump saying that Trump 2.0 is going to be completely different than his first term in office. He's not going to find common cause with experts and specialists. He's not going to sit down in a room and start negotiating with Dr. Anthony Fauci at the National Institutes of Health, now retired, of course, and experts like that. He wants to create a government of radicals. And what he's doing with all of these picks is throwing the gauntlet down for Republicans on Capitol Hill and saying, look, I got a huge mandate from the American people. The entire House of Representatives, of course, was up for grabs in the election. He can say to all the Republicans in the House, you owe your positions to my coattails. A third of the Senate was up for grabs. He can say to those Republicans who find themselves either returning to the Senate or arriving for the first time again, it was my coattails that got you here. So this is all a challenge to Republicans on Capitol Hill. He's saying to them, how far are you going to let me go? Are you going to let me do everything I want to do, or are you going to find a way of constraining me? Just before we came on air, we got news that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, a Republican, is now saying that he does not believe the House Ethics Committee report into the conduct of Matt Gaetz, the nominee for the position of Attorney General, should be released to the public now that Matt Gaetz has resigned his position in the House of Representatives. That is a huge assist for Donald Trump coming from the Speaker of the House, because if that report goes public, it may well torpedo Matt Gaetz's chances of becoming Attorney General. So the indications for Donald Trump are that, having thrown the gauntlet down, many Republicans are preparing to line up right behind him.
Well, Simon, thanks for following every twist and turn on this, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you in the coming days. Thank you, Simon Marks in Washington. Now, during last night's speech, Trump told supporters the Russia-Ukraine conflict has got to stop. It comes as Russia attacks the city of Odessa with drones and missiles targeting a residential area, which killed one woman and left at least 10 people injured, including a 9-year-old boy. The strike also hit the city's pipelines, leaving many without buildings without heating. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by our Kyiv correspondent, Megumi Lim. Megumi, why is Odessa significant for Russia? Why has it come under frequent attacks?
Well, first of all, as you said, very devastating attacks overnight against Odessa last night. Ukraine's Air Force said that its air defenses shot down 25 out of 29 drones and also 1 out of 2 missiles launched by Russia that injured 10 people, at least 10 people, and killed 1 woman. And, you know, Odessa is significant for Russia. It has been coming under frequent attacks since Russia's or throughout Russia's full-scale invasion. Now, why is that? Well, Odessa is home to the biggest port in Ukraine, and this port is considered one of the largest in the Black Sea basin. So clearly Odessa is a strategically important city for Ukraine and therefore for Russia as a target. And so throughout the war, Russia has targeted and attacked Odessa's grain storage warehouses. It has attacked its port facilities and also the civilian cargo vessels that have been using the Black Sea route to get to the ports in Odessa. Now, the aim clearly for Russia is to try to cripple Ukraine's economy. This Black Sea route has been and is vital for Ukraine's agricultural exports. And as we know, Ukraine is called the breadbasket of Europe. But not only that, Ukraine is also a major food supplier to countries in the global south. So these attacks that Russia has carried out throughout the war has really raised concerns about global food security. And it is clear that this war is not just about the trenches, but it is indeed a multi-pronged effort by Russia to try to destroy Ukraine.
Yeah, it does seem that way at the moment. Now, what we do know, we mentioned the pipelines. Winter is setting in, and Ukrainian officials are saying Russia will continue to ramp up attacks. So how will people cope?
Well, people are gearing up for probably the most difficult winter of war. More than half of Ukraine's energy generating capacity has been damaged and crippled by Russian attacks that were carried out this summer against Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Now, President Zelenskyy has already warned that this winter is going to be particularly dangerous, and he has been urging Ukraine's partners to provide more air defense systems to prevent further attacks on Ukraine's energy grid. But officials here have been saying that these attacks will continue. Russia will continue to intensify these attacks and target Ukraine's energy infrastructure. And energy officials have said that if these attacks do continue, we can expect blackouts of up to 20 hours a day. This is the worst case scenario that officials here have described. But even in a sort of better scenario, they're saying that blackouts will still last for as long as 8 hours. And so this is really going to be a very difficult winter ahead, and these possible scenarios will still play out even with help from the EU. The EU has already pledged 160 million euros to help Ukraine repair its energy grid, and also for humanitarian aid, things like providing shelter and also heaters to people here. And the EU has also said that it plans to export 2 gigawatts of electricity to Ukraine. This will make up about 12% of Ukraine's winter needs. But again, this is not going to be enough. We will be facing long blackouts this winter. So we will be seeing a lot of suffering here in Ukraine during the winter months.
Megumi, if we look at, 20 hours of blackouts being a worst-case scenario, what we do know is Zelenskyy is developing his 10-point internal resilience plan. What more can you tell us about that?
That's right. President Zelenskyy, in his nightly video address on Thursday last night, said that this internal resilience plan will be unveiled next week. We do not know exactly what's in it yet, but late last month, he did instruct the National Security Defense Council to prepare a plan to strengthen Ukraine, to basically bolster its front lines, to bolster its military-industrial complex, and also to bolster its economic and financial sector, among other strategic sectors in the country. Zelenskyy is likely preparing, as you said, for the upcoming difficult winter months, but also for a Trump presidency. There's a lot of uncertainty as to whether Trump will force Ukraine and Russia into some kind of a negotiated settlement where Ukraine may have to cede some territory to Russia. And so Zelenskyy, he has already announced his victory plan, as we know, which has elements that is directed at Kyiv's allies as to what Ukraine needs to gain a sort of upper hand in this war. But this victory plan did receive some criticism domestically, and people here were saying that Zelenskyy also needs to address issues that can be solved internally. There needs to be internal solutions as well, and it is unclear whether this 10-point internal resilience plan was structured in response to that. But we will be seeing internal solutions to issues that Ukraine is facing within this plan. But we will find out more next week.
Megumi Lim in Kyiv, thank you very much for the update. Let's have a look at some other stories making the news around the world. An open letter to the United Nations has said climate change talks are no longer fit for purpose and should only be hosted by countries who are attempting to give up fossil fuels. The letter, signed by UN Chief Ban Ki-moon, was disclosed during the COP29 climate summit currently taking place in Baku in Azerbaijan. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake has won the country's general election with a landslide victory. During his campaign, he promised to help the island recover from financial concerns. At least 10 people have died after a fire ripped through a retirement home in northern Spain earlier today. 2 people remain in a critical condition after the incident at the Jardin de Villafranca in the town Villafranca de Ebro in Zaragoza. And New York will become the first city in the United States to introduce a congestion charge in January. Governor Kathy Hochul said the decision would unclog the streets, reduce pollution, and deliver better public transit for millions of New Yorkers. The program has faced criticism from incoming President Donald Trump. There are reports that the US ambassador to Lebanon has submitted a draft ceasefire proposal to the Speaker of the country's parliament. It comes as the World Bank confirms the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has caused $8.5 billion in damage and losses to Lebanon, with figures expected to rise as the conflict continues. For more on this, I'm joined from our correspondent Giles Gibson in Tel Aviv. Giles, let's start by unpacking the latest on this. What do we know about the alleged draft truce proposal?
Well, there are multiple reports that it's going to be a 60-day ceasefire, sticking to the parameters of UN Resolution 1701, which dates back to 2006. What that means in practice is that Hezbollah fighters would have to withdraw behind the Litani River in southern Lebanon. And then really the big question about this potential deal is what it would mean for Israeli forces in southern Lebanon. Would they have to completely withdraw back into northern Israel, or would they have some sort of freedom? That's the word that's being used in these reports, freedom to cross back into Lebanon if they feel that the terms of this potential ceasefire deal are being violated by the other side.
A senior Hamas official has said the Palestinian militant group is ready for a ceasefire in Gaza and urged US President-elect Donald Trump to pressure Israel to end the aggression. How have the Israeli government reacted to this?
Well, what we're hearing from senior Israeli ministers is that they feel that they're getting much closer to a ceasefire deal in Lebanon, but really we are not hearing anything about any movement towards an end to the conflict in Gaza. You have the Foreign Minister, Gideon Saar, saying that he told the French Foreign Minister, who was visiting this week, that there was progress towards this deal in terms of the conflict in Lebanon. The Energy Minister, Eli Cohen, saying that really we are closer than ever before since the start of the conflict in the south of Lebanon to some sort of a ceasefire deal, but absolutely no mention of any sort of a deal taking shape in relation to the conflict in Gaza. And of course, every single day that ticks by, the humanitarian situation there is just getting that little bit worse every time.
Giles, that's quite a statement, closer than ever before, but it's still quite open-ended, isn't it? And very optimistic, given that we need to look at the challenges. How will the deal be met with the continuous bombardment on Lebanon? We know that Israel stepped up its offensive late September, and last Friday an Israeli airstrike flattened a building near one of Beirut's busiest traffic junctions. Surely this is going to make it very difficult for diplomatic efforts to be negotiated by the US.
Yeah, those airstrikes are continuing, and also we are hearing from the Israeli military that they are actually penetrating into areas of southern Lebanon, villages that they have not been to before so far during this ground offensive. That is coming at a cost to Israeli soldiers' lives. The Israeli military saying that 6 soldiers were killed on Wednesday, one of the bloodiest days of the offensive so far in terms of the Israeli side, and 1 soldier also killed on Thursday. The theory really is that the Israeli military are pushing deeper into southern Lebanon to try to force Hezbollah's hand, to try to make them come to the table and agree to a deal along the lines of the deal that we were just discussing. But in the meantime, you still have those airstrikes hitting Beirut and other parts of Lebanon, and rockets still coming in the opposite direction, fired by Hezbollah into northern and other parts of Israel.
We can have hopes and fears, though. You know, both things are relevant here in this discussion, because the draft truce proposal has been submitted, according to an advisor to the Speaker of the Lebanese government, and an answer is expected over the next 72 hours or next week. So can we be hopeful?
Well, I think one of the signs that we are approaching some sort of a deal, some sort of a breakthrough, is that the external players in all of this are also showing signs that they're trying to push it along. So you have reports that President-elect Donald Trump over in the US signed off on a deal that was sketched out to him by an Israeli government minister. You have Ali Lajani, who is an advisor to Iran's supreme leader, going to Beirut this week for talks, saying that the Iranians would back any sort of an agreement that the Lebanese government is prepared to sign up to, and also signs that Russia could potentially have a role in this ceasefire deal. Reports that Russia could be involved in terms of using its forces in Syria to stop weapons moving from that country into Lebanon and then potentially passing into the hands of Hezbollah militants.
Giles Gibson in Tel Aviv, thank you very much for the updates. Thank you. Let's have a look now at the top business news. Britain's economy has slowed down significantly in the third quarter of this year, a huge setback to Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who recently unveiled the country's budget. The UK's GDP grew by only 0.1% during September as manufacturing and construction dropped. Consumer goods from Unilever, which is responsible for brands like Ben & Jerry's and Magnum, has revealed it will be cutting less jobs in Europe than originally anticipated as it looks to hire 1,000 people. Earlier this year, the company claimed it would axe 7,500 jobs across the globe to save around $845 million. Turning to sport now, and England will take on South Africa at Twickenham Stadium tomorrow as the Springboks look for another victory after beating Scotland last week. And Australian tennis star Nick Kyrgios has revealed he feels fit and healthy as he prepares to return to court for the Brisbane International in December. The 29-year-old has been out with knee, foot and wrist injuries for the last 2 years. But the sports story everyone is talking about today is the much-anticipated fight between social media star Jake Paul and legendary boxer Mike Tyson. Paul and Tyson met for their weigh-in last night, with Iron Mike slapping his opponent on stage. The two will face off at the Dallas Cowboys football stadium tonight in front of 70,000 fans, and the fight will be aired on Netflix.
All right, that's it. That's it for Mike Tyson.
So who will come out victorious? Well, for more on this, I'm joined from Texas by Gareth A. Davies, the boxing columnist from the Daily Telegraph. Gareth.
How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. It does look quite stressful, this fight. It's the first for Mike Tyson in 19 years. Does he stand a good chance against someone 30 years younger?
Well, that's the jeopardy, Nadira, in this contest. A lot of excitement here this week in Dallas, Texas. Like you say 70,000. They may even get up to 90,000 fans in the arena tonight, and it may break all records for a live broadcast on a sporting event. It's 22 million is the record for a Super Bowl playoff game, but it's on Netflix, it's free, it's trending for over 25 million viewers, which they think will go up to 50 million when it stays on the platform. The reason: Jake Paul's a massive marketeer, a young genius in the influencer sphere who's taken to boxing. He's got 25 million subscribers himself. And then you've got Iron Mike Tyson, one of the most fascinating human beings on the planet, from my milieu, from the fight world, who's rolling back the years. It's nostalgia linked with bizarre carnival stuff. I think it's a big story because Mike Tyson is 58. He was the youngest heavyweight champion in history, remember, at the age of just 20. So people wonder whether tonight, can he really roll back the years, bring darkness again for one more time, as I asked him earlier on this week in an intimate interview with him. And he said, yes, I can. I'm bringing the devil himself in the ring. And he showed it with that slap to test Jake Paul's reflexes yesterday at those weigh-ins, as you rightly mentioned. It's a big event. Most people are feeling the nostalgia, Nadira, for Mike Tyson, and they want him to knock Jake Paul out. But I'm giving him 1 or 2 rounds to do it before the 58-year-old gets exhausted.
The figures you're quoting are absolutely incredible. The power of technology these days, 25 million is just one of the figures you quoted. And the word nostalgia, I'm not quite sure about that. I can think of better ways of reminiscing, but it is going to be massive. How does the world of boxing view this matchup, a YouTuber versus a 58-year-old former world champion?
Well, it's the name Mike Tyson. The boxing purists feel that there's a danger of him, if he gets beaten by Jake Paul, of ruining his legacy. I mean, his legacy in the heavyweight division is extraordinary. It's the youngest champion ever. All the kind of divisiveness around him early in his life as a wrecking ball, as both a fighter and even as a human being. So many things going up and down his life, spilling and losing $250 million that he earned, that he was almost destitute at the end of it. The story of rising from privation in Brownsville, New York. He's a changed man, by the way, and I've been friends with Mike for many years, and he's an extraordinary human being. It's amazing that he's even around, given the ravages of what happened in his early life. But I think there's that fascination about, can this man who was like a physical freak, he's not a big guy, but he was knocking out the super heavy guys in his era, can he actually do it one more time? The numbers are enormous because these are 2 huge marketing forces coming together. Honestly, my straw poll of being around Dallas and meeting all the fans who are coming into town is so many people want to see Iron Mike back again because he's so beloved now. It's extraordinary that he's still here. And Jake Paul has played the villain and played the heel really cleverly. Even in the Toyota Music Factory, where we've all had all the events, the set pieces during the week, there's even a punch ball that's the face of Jake Paul that you can go and punch. It's all marketing. It's all a bit of fun, but we also have to remember that boxing is an inherently dangerous sport. and we hope nothing goes wrong tonight. They're fighting over 8 two-minute rounds, and of course there's an enormous women's fight on the card. Amanda Serrano, the Puerto Rican with 7 world titles, against the Irish woman Katie Taylor, 2 modern icons in women's boxing.
The canny, can't-he question, 2 worlds colliding. It is incredible. It's going to be very exciting. There's no doubt about it. And we've been seeing the footage with the slap during what happened last night. What did you make of that slap?
Well, as I say, I think what Mike did was, Mike wasn't wearing shoes and Jake crawled in, stepped on his toe. I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but Mike reacted straight away, slapped Jake Paul's face with the right hand. Jake Paul didn't even react. His hands didn't come up. And I think Mike Tyson, in his mind, the animal spirit coming into him, will be saying, right, he doesn't have fast reactions. I've got faster hands than his, but he will have faster hands, as I say, for the first 2 or maybe 3 rounds. They both weighed 227, 228 pounds, 16 stone 3. They're very equal in weight. Mike Tyson should know his way around the fight early on. He'll be dangerous for 2 or 3 rounds and may knock Jake Paul out. That's the plan, he's told me. But the longer the fight goes, the more chance there is for the younger man to take the bout on points with an exhausted Mike Tyson.
Gareth, I'm going to ask you for one name, the burning question, and if you were a betting person, who's going to win?
I've got to sit on the fence. Tyson early, Paul late.
There were 2 there. There were 2 there. Gareth Davies from the Telegraph. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks.
Let's remind you of our top stories. Trump names vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as his pick for health secretary. Russia targets the city of Odessa, killing 1, injuring others and leaving thousands without heating after missiles hit pipelines. And the slap shown around the world. Iron Mike Tyson prepares for battle against Jake Paul in one of the most anticipated fights in boxing history. That's it from us tonight. Thanks for joining us on W News. Tom Burgess-Watson is up later with GNT. Good night.